Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much to Bee for joining us. She is a anchor to our Banerji Facebook group. Every time anyone has a question, Bee is there diligently providing very detailed notes. So impressed that she can just pull it out of thin air, it seems, and is definitely very generous with her time and information, and seemingly having a lot of success stories. So really excited to have you on, Bee. Thank you so much. If you'd like to just start out, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you discovered homeopathy.
Awesome. Okay, I'm Bee Coleman. I have been chasing health issues since 2000. My older sister died in 2001 from stomach cancer. And I kept thinking in my mind, she wasn't born with stomach cancer. So what happened? What changed in the body? Over the years, I've learned a lot of different good stuff, whether it be supplements, different things. I've had some good successes. It wasn't until about 2015 I was perusing the internet as I usually do, and I ran into a blog by Joette Calabrese, who was very much a classical homeopath. And then in 2013, she started going to the Banerji clinics in Calcutta, India. And she made a drastic change over to the Banerji protocols. And she found that her success rate, which was already quite good, increased significantly. I've never studied classical because I found Joette first, and what she covers now mostly is the Banerji protocols. And so I have no knowledge as to the classical end of things. I know nothing about it. What I ended up doing is I basically, every time I found information, and she has a lot of free protocols on her blog. You have to really search them out. You're not going to get all of them at one time. There's a lot of free info in there. Every time I found something, I would send the website link. I would email it to myself, and then I would write notes on there on what the issue was and what the protocol was. And over the years, I have just collected a ton of homeopathic protocols. The way I store them is I put them in 4 different email boxes. And the way I find them, I find this easier. My husband says there's better ways to do this, but this is what I do. I just do a word search for what the illness, the health issue that we're dealing with. And a handful, maybe a few more pop up. And then I scroll through and find the one I'm looking for. I find that to be very fast. So when someone in the group needs information about something, I just put in the words for whatever their health issue is, and it pops right up. When I first discovered Joette, my first guinea pig was my youngest son, David. He ended up texting my husband because he was still under our insurance, and he wanted to know our health insurance information. So of course I was rattled and immediately called him and wanted to know what was going on. And he says, "Oh, Mom, it's not an emergency. But do you remember when I sprained my ankle?" He had sprained his ankle 13 months prior, skateboarding, which I told him absolutely don't ever do because you are my child and I have very bad ankles. I've always had bad joints. I have rolled each of my ankles at least 4 times each over my lifetime, very easily. So I knew that he shouldn't be doing what he did. He did it anyway. His sprain was so bad that he was on crutches for about 6 weeks. And so now fast forward 13 months later, at which point I had only been into homeopathy maybe 3 months or so. And so one of the things that I had picked up and stored away was a protocol on sprained ankles. So I said, well, son, why didn't you tell me? Because I do tend to be the family doctor. He says, well, I didn't think you could fix that. I said, I never know what I can fix until I try, you know? So I went and got in the remedies. He came over. I've got 4 children. 2 of them are very good about taking what I tell them to. My oldest is a work in process, but he's starting to come around. Anyway, I gave him the protocol. I said, I have no idea if this works, how long it takes if it does work, but here's what you do, be diligent. He says, well, while we're at it, what do you have for allergies, seasonal allergies? I said, oh, I have one for that, but let's wait until let's get your ankle out of the way. So fast forward 5.5 weeks, and he texted me and he says, Mom, I really got to start on the allergy stuff because spring had arrived. I said, I know, but let's get your ankle dealt with. And he says, Mom, my ankle's done. 5.5 weeks after 13 months in pain. And I'm going, what? He says, so I start questioning, no swelling, no achiness, no pain, no. And I just kept asking. He says, Mom, it's like it never happened. It just erased the whole incident. He's been off of it for 3-4 years now, and his ankle is perfectly fine. So then we started on his allergies, which he had pretty severe allergies, but they were late. They came when they started when he was about 16 years old. And he left at 18, so I wasn't really So we started him on the low stomach acid / GERD protocol, along with Bovista and Sanguinaria, because his nose was like a faucet year round. Every day of the year, his nose just drained. It took him about 19.5 months. And that's why I say it's important to be diligent and have patience. And he did, he had both. 19.5 months, he zeroed out because we use muscle testing, and I'll talk a little bit about that in a little while. But he zeroed out. And so when you zero out, when you test negative for the remedies, you're done. And that was also about 3 years ago. And every summer now, every spring, he's perfectly fine. I always ask him, how are the allergies? He says, what allergies? So those 2 things just by themselves completely blew my mind. Just totally blew my mind. So let's see what else happened. I have a friend in Texas. She's an older woman that's halfway between my mother's age and mine. So when I kind of inherited her from my mom, and then when my mom passed on, then she and I continued the friendship. And she knows that I'm very much into natural healing. So she texted me one day and she says, I was just diagnosed with breast cancer. Do you have anything for that? I said, I do, but I don't have anyone that I've tried it on. So I can't tell you, yes, I know it works. No, it doesn't. I said, are you game? And she said, yes. She was a stage 2. So she wasn't at the deadly end yet, but she was a stage 2. In about, let me try to remember. There's so many stories. I think hers was about 5 months, 5.5 maybe. She was declared cancer-free, breast cancer. So I'm like, yes. So now I can tell people, yes, I know this protocol works. Will it work on everyone? Maybe not. Everyone is different. And the thing about the Banerji protocols is they have different, you try this one first. If that one doesn't work, you try this one. Usually there's 3. And you try them in that order. as I said, hers worked perfectly on the first line protocol. I have a great nephew who was 6 at the time, so he's probably nine right now. He had asthma, very severe asthma. So his was so bad that he was on daily meds every single day, 2 or 3 every day. And he visited the hospitals anywhere from 3 to 5 times a year, just a regular patient. So my sister started talking to my niece about it, about homeopathy and what I was doing. And I said, ask her if she wants to try something for her son. And she was game. And she didn't, people don't always read carefully everything I write. On the asthma, it says at the very bottom, caution, caution, caution. If you're on meds, don't just get off of them. You might end up with a boomerang effect, and you'll be in a lot of trouble. Well, that's exactly what she did. She just started taking her son off of stuff. And he ended up having a very bad incident, got through that. We had a talk. And I thought at that point that she was going to give up because the baby's dad, the boy's dad, was very upset at the whole thing. And so I didn't hear from her for several months. And so I assumed that she had just stopped the protocol. I ended up calling her a few months down the line about something else. And before we hung up, she says, oh, by the way, I keep trying to remember to tell you, his asthma is gone, done. She had been taken him into the specialist about 2 weeks earlier, and he's running all these tests. You know, they make him breathe hard, work hard, you know, so get their lungs going. And he looks at her and he says, I think your son is cured. And then he goes, he probably outgrew it. It happens, you know. And she just smiled and said, okay, thank you. And went on her merry way. That was a big success because this was a guy that didn't just use an inhaler every now and then. It was his life and the meds and hospitalizations. And he's been completely asthma-free for years now. So his life changed. My grandson, Jesse, at about 9 months of age, I noticed the back of his legs were rough. And I wasn't familiar with eczema. So I said to my daughter when she came to pick him up, I said, what's with this? I said, what's this roughness? She says, oh, that's eczema. I said, how do you know? Well, I showed it to his mom and she said, oh yeah, Brent had that when he was a baby, the father. I said, well, why didn't you tell me? I said, I can put him on a protocol. Let's see if it works. And sure enough, it did. And no more eczema. So the
Which protocol was that? Was it the 200, the 200s or the 6s?
For the asthma, I don't know them all. For the eczema.
For the eczema, that it's either 200, it's arsenicum and ant crude 200, or it's arsenicum and ant crude 60. Do you know which one you did?
I want to say it was 200. If anyone wants any protocols, by the way, because I don't memorize them, I just pop them up from the computer. Message me and ask me for a protocol that you need. But yeah, we had that success. Then his younger brother, who is now, he'll be 2 in late July. Never had any needle pokes. And yet he has had ear infections. He had acid reflux. We noticed it at around 10 months, 9 or 10 months old. And then he was allergic to rice, white rice of all things, and dairy. So I'm like, whoa, had to fix him. We got him on the GERD protocol. and along with the allergy food intolerance. He can now, and he was lactose intolerant as well. So the GERD is no more. He can eat rice without any problems. And we're almost there with the dairy. The dairy is always going to be a little harder, I think. But we're almost there with him. He's testing for less and less and less. So that's my second grandson. My husband has provided all manner of guinea pig situations for me. He got a massive sciatica attack. It was his second. The first one was like 25 years ago. And I couldn't even remember until he started reminding me that back then, about 25 years ago, he was on hands and knees, and 3 weeks, it was a very long time. And fast forward to a couple of summers ago, he got sciatica, and in 3 days, he was back at work. Luckily, it started over the weekend. So on Monday, he was back at work. And by Tuesday, he didn't need the stuff anymore. He then, that same summer, gave himself a hernia, picking up our handicapped daughter. He was kind of twisted when he picked her up. So something popped. He didn't say anything to me. Our oldest son was there. We walk him out to the car. And as we're walking back, I'm walking behind him, and he's walking kind of funny. So I said, "What's wrong?" He says, "I don't know. I picked Angel up and something popped." I said, "What do you mean something popped?" He says, "There's something sticking out of my, up above my belly button." I'm like, "Oh, you gave yourself a hernia." So then he's looking at me. He says, "Well, do we call the doctor?" And I gave him the look. He says, "You can fix this?" I said, "I have no clue, but I do have a protocol for it. We're going to try it." It took about 9.5, maybe 10 months. The pain, by the way, was gone within the first 2 weeks. There was no more pain, but the bulge kept getting smaller and smaller and smaller. Now, how do we know when to stop? Again, we muscle test. And then the other thing was that as time kept progressing, the bulge kept getting smaller and smaller and smaller. By the time he zeroed out, the bulge was gone. So they coincided, right? And that was a couple of summers ago, no problems ever since. Every year, he gives me a skin infection, a mystery skin infection that I have to fix. First winter, I got it under control fairly fast. I kind of had to make up what I used because I couldn't find anything that was actually working. So I'm like, okay, this is for skin. I just started muscle testing everything. And the ones he muscle tested, the strongest 4, those are the ones I gave him. So then after that, the following winter, we had another one. The first one was on his arms. The second one was on his arms again, but very much worse because it took him about 3 weeks to tell me he was having an issue. It then got away from me. I couldn't fix it, or so I thought. So we finally called in our doctor friend who gave him a steroid. And at that point, I just felt like a complete failure because it's like, we had to go with drugs. And of course, it started clearing it right up. And as soon as it was done, everything starts coming back. At that point, I am panicked because it's like, what am I going to do? We can't just keep filling him up with steroids. So I just went to town again, got even more remedies around me, and then just started bang, 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 testing every single one. I picked about 5 of them out that were really strong, and that's what we did. The other thing, I know that I like the Banerji protocols, but I also, because of muscle testing, I'm able to get a lot more aggressive, both as to the number of pellets or drops and as to the frequency. So what we had to do that second time, he was dosing every 1 hour, every waking hour. And it still, at that point, at that rate, it took about 11 months to completely, for everything to subside. So then comes this year, and his arms were fine, but he started getting a rash right around the laugh lines. Can't really call it a rash, redness. Then it started creeping up on both sides, up the nose, up in here, and then his entire forehead. And it just kept getting redder and redder and redder. And I wasn't able to do it all by myself. And that's the thing about this group. Everyone needs help at some point, right? And I got a lot of help from two of the homeopaths on here, Ikram Manzoor and Mohammed. Let me see, his last name is, I hope I don't butcher it. Kokar. I hope that's how you pronounce your name, Mohammed. And they were both very helpful. With their help, I was able to redirect, because sometimes you get panicked and you need other people thinking a little more clearly. At first, I thought, well, he's definitely got some allergies going here, and he does. He's always had allergies. And then at one point, Mohammed, I showed him a picture of when it was all red completely. And then I showed him one later when it got even worse. It was horrible. No one's seen that one because I don't know how to transfer from my phone to the computer. So he looked at him, he says, that's a food allergy going on right there. So I start muscle testing our food. And it turns out, just like his grandson, he is allergic to white rice and milk products. So now we've got to work on that. So here we are, we're thinking he's improving. And then we had a really cold spell here and a lot of snow. And he had to be out there 2 and 3 days plowing. And he got way, way worse with that activity. And he said he could feel his eyelids were swollen. They were swelling up. And at that point, I'm like, okay, so he's got food allergies and he also has urticaria, which is an allergy to either hot or cold. His is cold. I'm like, oh, great. But now I know what I'm working with, right? And so we used probably about 10 to 12 different remedies on him. He's still on them because all his skin issues take a very long time. But in addition to that, now we're finally addressing his stomach issues because he has low stomach acid with all the allergies and everything going on. And so I'm hoping that this is the last winter we're going to have to, because if they keep getting progressively worse, I don't know if I can deal with next year, you know, because this one was really, really hard to beat down. So yeah, that's my husband. I get a lot of hands-on experience with him. Let's see. Oh, infertility. There is a Banerji protocol for infertility. And I shared it with a couple of women at one point. Well, I've shared it with a lot of women. Not everyone always gets back to you, so you don't know what happened or not. With one woman in particular, she had a multitude of issues, but infertility was one of them. And they had a 5-year-old daughter, and they had been trying for 3.5 years with no success whatsoever. So fast forward a few months, maybe 3 or 4 months down the line, and she messages me again, and she's asking me for help with a different issue. And I said, oh, wait a minute. What happened? she says, oh, I'm pregnant. So I'm like, whoa, this stuff works, you know? So that was very exciting.
Did she give the banner to the protocol? Did she give the credit to the homeopathy, or was she doing other things?
No, it was totally homeopathy. It was totally
That's
the
awesome.
homeopathy. Yes. So let's see. Let's talk about the dreaded illness whose name shall not be spoken. That's been going on for 2 years. Back in March of 2020, so that was early in the game, my old pastor's wife called me up because she knows that I've always delved into natural health. And she says, so-and-so from our church is had the illness. He's been released, but she said, B, he can't breathe properly. He's very weak and he can't breathe. He sleeps kind of propped up, leaning just a little, because if he goes straight on, vertical, he can't breathe, period. He just can't breathe. I said, okay. So I went over there. She says, you're going to go over there? I said, how else am I going to know? So I went in the house and I tested everyone because there were other people sick in the house too. And I left them a whole slew of remedies. And on the morning after the third full day, the wife texted me and she was so overjoyed. She says, B, he is so much better. He's breathing. He's almost back to normal. 3 days with homeopathy. So somebody tell me why our homeopathic hospitals in the early 1900s were all shut down, because, that was real medicine. So that was back, and that was before, by the way, now with this unnamed disease, illness, I've come to the conclusion, at least, that every time you have it, you are going to have some blood clotting going on. Now, some people have blood clotting in the major arteries, in the brain, and the lungs. But there's a second form of blood clotting that occurs in the capillaries, all the millions of tiny little, you cut the tip of your finger, blood's going to come out of there. There's capillaries in there. That kind of clotting can only be detected by the D-dimer test, D-dimer. But if they formed more than 77 days earlier, it will not pick them up. So this is where muscle testing comes in real handy. I had read that Arnica 1M is used for people who are in the middle of having a stroke. And so I said, I think that's the one. So I started testing all my guinea pig friends and their relatives and their acquaintances. And sure enough, they were all popping up positive. And I would say, do you have any vascular issues, heart issues, blah, blah, blah? No. Okay, then you shouldn't be testing this high for this remedy, which tells me that you've got some blood clotting going on in your body. In particular, I have a cousin in Toledo, and she and her husband are both nurses. And they both got the illness, and then they later both got the needle. Why, I don't know. They already had immunity. She did one and then opted not to do the second. He did both. And then his health went completely downhill. He was so extremely exhausted, weak, fatigued, that a 5-year-old could have taken him. He had no energy, and he had a lot of trouble breathing. And he was not a believer in natural medicine, but she was able to convince him to come once. He also had neuropathy in his legs that had nothing to do with this. That had been going on for a few years, and it was pretty painful for him. So I tested him for everything, and I gave him the remedies for everything, and I also gave him a dose of hypericum in a 50 m for his neuropathy. And they called me. It's about an hour away. No, she texted me when they got there, and she was so excited. She said, his neuropathy feels so much better. He was just dumbfounded, but that was good that happened, because now he's going to use the protocol. He knows the stuff works. Long story short, in 2.5 months, he went from no energy, complete fatigue, unable to breathe well. And 2.5 months later, they went camping, and he returned to his job because he had to go on medical leave. I forgot to tell you that. He had to go on medical leave. And so about 2.5 months later, he was able to go back to work. He hadn't zeroed out yet, but he was fully functional to work. So that one I just thought was, wow, you know. Let's see. My one grandson, the little one that had the GERD and all of those, didn't have the needle, but has ear infections, blah, blah, blah. He has never taken any over-the-counter medicines, nothing. Every time there's an issue, my daughter calls me up, what do I do? And she's getting good enough now that I've stocked her pretty well. She says, Mom, this is going on. I'm giving him this, and this. What am I missing? Nothing. You're not missing anything. So my daughter, I'm hoping, is the one that's going to carry on. And she's raising her sons to be white jacket free. And hopefully the word will continue to spread, around the world. Everyone who has experienced the miracles of homeopathy, by the way, should be talking to everyone around them, because we need to take back our medical world from the others, let's say.
Well, tell us a little bit about that, Bea. I mean, it sounds like you've been able to help a lot of people outside of your family. Like, how do you approach them? How are you like, hey, you're like, I got this stuff, or do you explain homeopathy or what? I actually had an interesting conversation with my brother, who was absolutely not sold. And he's like, if you told me it was a supplement, I would be more likely to take it. But you're telling me it's something else, something weird, something. It's like, I don't trust it. I'm like, what? It didn't even occur to me. Like, supplements, people are like comfortable with it. They know what they are. They know it's like a chemical interaction or whatever. But homeopathy, you're like, well, it doesn't work like that. That actually turns people off. And I was like, well, maybe I could just say it's a supplement to your vital force. Like what? What do I need to say?
Tell them it's a supplement.
Yeah.
Tell them it's a supplement. And then once they see that it works, tell them the truth. I think. I've had, for example, a woman in my church, 66 at the time. So she's about 68 now. And I saw her on crutches. I was new to that church. And I saw her on crutches. I said, hey, Deb, what's going on? She says, oh, my knee just comes out of the socket. I usually just push it back in and I'm good to go. She says, I'm going to have a knee replacement in October. This was in May, early May. She said, I'm going to have a knee replacement in October. I said, if I gave you a very effective and very affordable protocol to completely heal you and avoid the surgery, would you be interested? And she said, yeah. And she was sincere. Some people say yes, and then you don't hear from them. So I gave her the protocol, and she immediately went out and got the stuff. And a few weeks later, maybe a couple of months later, I saw her again, and I said, Deb, how's the knee? She says, it feels better, but I'm still scheduled for the surgery. I said, good. I said, you know what? Keep doing what you're doing. Just be very, very diligent. I saw her again in September sometime. And I said, Deb, give me an update. How's it going? She says, Bea, I have had so much improvement that my doctor canceled the surgery. I'm like,
Awesome.
yes, that is so exciting. So she's still on it because these things didn't develop overnight, especially if you're 66 years old. It took a good long while to get there, right? So I can't see you anymore, and I lost my frame of thought. Oh, so she's still on the remedy, on the protocols. And then sometime later, she comes to me and she's twirling around. She says, B, look. And I'm like, okay, what am I looking at? And she says, I'm wearing heels. They were about so big, but she could not wear any heels anymore. That's how bad all her bones had gotten. So she was just so excited that she could wear little heels. So she continues to improve. Now, other people, my daughter's mother-in-law has diverticulitis. And as you know, there's a Banerji protocol for that. And I told her about it, and she did this, Okay, that's that. But now, fast forward to a few weeks ago, she has seen what I've done for my grandsons, and they had the dreaded illness. And she, my daughter told me, and I said, do you think she'd take some remedies? And she says, yeah, Mom, I think she would. So I texted Kelly and said, Kelly, I hear you've got the illness. I've got remedies that'll help you get through it a lot smoother. Do you want me to bring them over? Oh, yes, please. And they were so, because this one was dragging on for them. They'd been sick 2 weeks and they weren't really improving. And literally within 2 and 3 days, massive improvement. And they were on the stuff for about a week, but you could tell right off the bat from one day to the next, there was improvement. So, the people that are willing to accept the help, that are willing to take a chance, that's one more person that's going to go, yes, this stuff works. Whatever this is, it works. And the ones that don't, maybe somewhere down the line, but you don't stop asking. But now I don't do so much offering anymore, as I get texts or emails or calls from different people saying, I've got a cousin, I've got a friend, I've got a, are you willing to help them? And I said, sure, I'm willing to help anyone. Make sure they know I'm not a homeopath, but I'll tell them what I've used that I know works, and give them all the options and everything. I have an old friend that used to live here in Michigan and moved to Texas, which is my home state. I'm really jealous. And he messaged me one day, and he was looking for the number for our old pastor for something or other. And we got to talking, and next thing you know, we're talking, because I always end up talking about health. It's just what happens. And it just so happens that his wife had taken the hokey pokey, and she was not doing well. On top of which, he hadn't shared with her. And so when people talk about, is there a sharing of this needle procedure? Yes, there is, especially when you are husband and wife, because you are swapping fluids. And he said later, not in front of her, because he didn't want to make her feel bad, he said, B, ever since she got it, I have been deathly ill. I feel like I'm dying. And so I sent them a bunch of remedies to detox, try to undo all of this stuff. And I taught him how to muscle test over the phone. Aww.
She just woke up, so she's 4.5. She's doing great. So go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, what's her name?
It's Charlotte Grace. Yeah.
What a
She's doing great. She's my fattest baby yet. So I attribute that to Weston Price and homeopathy. So
there you go. So long story short, I taught him how to muscle test over the phone. And it was a good thing because she couldn't. She was in such bad shape. She wasn't physically able to try to muscle test. And I said, I want you to, everything I sent for her, I want you to take it. It included arnica and then all the stuff to detox from the needle. And he tested higher than her for the arnica. And I'm talking way, way, way high. And literally within the week, he reported that they were both starting to feel much better. So yeah, I mean, it's just, and now he's sending me people. So I always have people sending me people now. So I don't ever have to go around like, hey, can I help you?
That's great. Well, then keep going with that then. So someone comes to you, and then do you assess them and start with the Banerji protocol right away, or you start and then kind of leads into the muscle testing? Like, what are all the instructions that you would give to people? And do you warn them about provings at all? Does that ever come into the conversation?
I will tell them that sometimes when a remedy is not good for you, you might end up proving, and that just means you have the wrong remedy. But here's the thing about muscle testing. If you muscle test and your body says yes, you're never going to prove. You may aggravate, but you're never going to prove because your body already told you, yes, I need that one. Okay, so that I think in itself is just an awesome thing. I have not seen a ton of aggravation. And so I do tell them, now be warned, sometimes you get a little worse before it gets better. And you just have to push through it. Well, recently someone posted the aggravation zapper. It was in this group, right? The aggravation zapper. And I'm like, whoa, that's great, because usually the homeopaths will tell you, you just got to push through it. Well, now there's something that apparently and I haven't used it, I haven't had a need to use it on anyone, but if you take the same remedy in water and just drop the pellet and throw it right back out, and then just keep pouring more glasses after the 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, whatever glass you pick a number, take a sip, and it will supposedly just settle down all the aggravation so that you can still take what you need to take. And then if you're going to aggravate, it gets rid of it right away. So that's exciting to know. Let's see. The Banerji protocol.
Do you start by giving them the Banerji protocol and then telling them to muscle test that, or do you have other ways of doing that?
If the people are local, they will often, some people are not comfortable with muscle testing just because they don't think they can do it. If they're local, I just tell them, you know what, come back every week and I'll just test your meds for you. And that's fine. So what I do, because homeopathy, all natural medicine, you have to look at all of the different possibilities going on. One woman once asked me about a cough, and I started asking questions, and it turns out she had much more serious issues than her cough. And so what I started doing is I put together a questionnaire. How old are you? If you're female, when did you start your period? Was it regular? How are your periods? Are they normal? Are they super heavy bleeding? Did you get jabbed? What else? Do you have any allergies, any food intolerances, constipation? I just go the whole gamut because I'm trying to get an overall picture of what's going on with this person. And I do find you will hear me focusing a lot on how's your gut, because the gut is the source of all our health predominantly. So if your gut is not in good shape, people start falling apart. And it's funny because for the same issue, some people might have emotional issues, some might have skin issues, some might have digestive issues. Everyone's different. So I always go through and say, there usually is a gut issue involved. And when I say gut, low stomach acid. And stomach acid is not very well understood, even by doctors, because when people hear low stomach acid or I'm too acidic or whatever, they're thinking volume. But in reality, it's a matter of quality, strength. Digestive acid has to be strong enough to completely digest your foods so that it can continue on. When you have low, weak stomach acid, you're not properly digesting at the top. So as that is continuing down the intestines, where all these other things are grabbing on the nutrition, sucking away the nutrition as it goes by, they can't do that because it wasn't properly digested. So essentially, as time progresses, and if it gets bad enough, you're essentially starving to death. You may be getting calories, but you are nutrient deficient. So as that happens, your health starts falling apart. So yes, I always do a list and I say, tell me about this, tell me about that, tell me about, how's your sleep, all of that, because everything is connected in our bodies. We're all connected. And one thing will affect another. So, you've got to try to find where is the source of the problem. You correct the source, and then you also have to address the individual symptoms that came as a result. Because if you wait for the source to get around to fixing them, you might have a very long wait. It's not overnight. So I always tell people, you still are going to have to treat your eczema, your colitis, your whatever issue came from your bad gut. Let's see. Oh, type 1 diabetes. This is the dragon that I have not been able to slay. I have injured it, but I have not been able to slay it. The little boy that I have been helping lives about 12 minutes away. And he has type 1. He was 7 when I started treating him. I think we're 2 years into it now. And so what happened is I got help from Ikram Mansour with this. And before that, I also used what I had from the Banerjis. And with all of that together, we've been able to reduce his insulin intake by about 75%, which is huge because insulin, and I don't know if people know this, but insulin is extremely rude. It does not knock at the door. It busts through the windows and the walls to get into the cells. And so it's creating a lot of damage as it is at the same time saving your life, which is why people who are on insulin for long term end up with a very serious organ issues because of this process of how insulin works. So in terms of, we've got him down 75%. That's a bunch of years that I've given back to him through less insulin. But I'm still wanting to find that key remedy that's going to get rid of his type 1 completely. If anyone out there has a protocol that does exactly that, if you would message me and give me that, I would be forever grateful. So that one's still a work in progress. He has not, there's no backsliding. He's still on the remedies, but he hasn't lost any ground. We just haven't gained more ground in that last 25%. So, and when he gets sick, and I think this happens to all type 1s at least, I don't know about type 2, but type 1 diabetes people, when they get sick, and I don't know what the connection is. If someone knows that, post it. But when he gets sick, his sugar gets really high. and his mom has a hard time controlling it. And he just got sick. He came over to my house and threw up. So, and like, oh no. But he didn't get anyone. So I don't know what causes that, but at least for type 1s, if you get sick, you get a sugar spike. And I have no idea what the connection is. I'd love to know. If anyone knows, please tell me. I am never afraid to ask for help. Most situations I can handle, but when I get in over my head, I have no trouble asking for friends. What do you suggest? What have you done? What do you know? There's only one way to learn, and that's to ask and keep digging. I'm a professional student. I love to learn, which is why I'm always on the internet learning more stuff. Anyone, even if you don't want to do this on a serious level, if only for the care of your family, your loved ones, whenever you come across a protocol, copy it and paste it onto an email and send it to yourself. How you store it after that is up to you. I just put it in folders, Outlook Express folders. But that way, when you need it again, or someone you know needs it again, it's there, and you can start your own collection of protocols. It is an amazing feeling to know that, like when this illness of 2 years came on the scene, to know that I don't have to live in fear because I have homeopathy and some other stuff, but primarily homeopathy, that I know will walk us through. And my oldest son, as I mentioned earlier, he's not a believer, but they're starting to come around. However, his son had puked his guts out for 3 days before he finally said something to me. And then he brought him over. I'm giving him all the remedies. He takes him home, and they don't continue aggressively. So his son was sick for a couple of weeks, just, a little here, a little there. He gave it to everyone around us, except me. I didn't get it. My daughter didn't get it. But my husband and my other daughter, my handicapped daughter, got it. My other daughter didn't get it, but her husband and her 2 boys got it. But the difference was that we all treated, and the worst part was over in a day. And then the lingering stuff was 2-3 days. That's quite different from the 3 weeks that my other grandson experienced, because they just don't take it seriously. What I always say, this is my approach in any case. If I catch a bug, I'm always be alert to what your body is trying to tell you. And as soon as there is the slightest hint of anything, I start muscle testing everything under the sun and a lot of times, if you take the Aconite 200 Bryonia 30 combo very aggressively at the first sign of something, you have a pretty good chance of just aborting the whole thing. So that's always a big plus. Like, hit it hard. And when I say hit it hard, every 10 minutes, every 15 minutes, and if you muscle test, you'll know if your numbers are dropping, and if your numbers are still high, then just keep going. That's what I do. Illnesses around here don't last very long, because I'm always on the lookout. And when it comes, I treat very aggressively. Even for some of the long-term chronic issues, my philosophy on muscle testing is, if your body says yes, then it's okay to do. So, for example, if a Banerji protocol says do this twice a day, I will muscle test 3. And if all 3 come out positive, then I give the dose that they muscle tested for. What I have found is that healing comes a lot faster when I'm more aggressive about something. So, let's see, what else do I have?
Do you want to get in a bit more about the muscle testing then? We have a couple questions. Some was, can you teach us the muscle testing? And then two, what is the success ratio of muscle testing?
The success ratio as far as being able to learn it, or the success ratio of using it?
I think of using it. Do you ever find you don't get the right answer, or, you know?
I don't, but I've been doing it a long time. I did find out, and you know, there's always learning to be done. I didn't realize until maybe 2 months ago, and I've been muscle testing since 2012. I didn't realize until about 2 months ago. And the reason I came to realize it is I have a friend that took the needle and her health has declined drastically ever since. And so she came over, I tested her for all 3 of the needles. And she came up positive on 2 of them. That's because of sharing, and negative on the one. And I said, is this the one you took? And she says, no, I took this one, which is the one that she tested negative for. And I'm going, oh my gosh. I said, let me do something different. So I started at a way out number, 100. And this was drops. And I just kept going down. And she hit way up there. That's why it wasn't showing up when I was muscle testing for 5 and 10 and 15. If you're in a range that's way less than what you need, what I'm finding is you're going to get a negative. So I tell people, no matter what it is, start at 100 and start climbing down. And then when you hit the number that fits you, that's the range you want to be in. There are some people.
Second, hold on just a second. So can you just go back to like muscle testing basics? Can you give us a little course on that? When you say the numbers, I'm not quite sure. Are you talking 100 pellets or 100 frequency or 100 C? Like, just go back to muscle testing basics, 101.
Okay. So depending on whether you're taking pellets or liquid, or you can do this with supplements, tablets, anything you're testing. I'm talking the number of drops, the number of pellets that your body needs per dose. And then how do you figure out frequency? You test again. If you're at negative, it's not time. If you're at positive, take however many it says to take, however muscle testing. So how you do it. And I was very much a skeptic when I first heard of muscle testing, because I'm a very practical person. And there's a natural practitioner in Canada that I buy cell salts from. And he was teaching everyone how to muscle test. And I'm going, yeah. I was like, that's nonsense. So I understand when people are leery, skeptical. So I decided to just go ahead and do it anyway. And I said, I'm just going to try. I'm going to keep an open mind. I will not move my own body. If my body moves, it's going to have to do it on its own because I'm not helping it. So you stand straight, relaxed, but straight. So no slouching. Straight, relax, let your hands, and this is the tester. You use your name. So for example, and you can tip your head back. I have found that you don't necessarily need to do that. Close your eyes and you just go, my name is B, my name is B, my name is B. And you keep focusing. Your focus is on your words. Your focus is not on what is my body doing? Is it moving? You know, no, focus on your words. And then your body will respond. So I'm like, my name is B, 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 my name is B. And then all of a sudden my body does this. It went back. What's wrong with that picture? I was inverted because forward is yes. So, and I didn't find that out till a couple of months after that. So I thought this was yes, and it wasn't. But I learned how to muscle test, and I'm going, whoa. It's like, whoa. At the beginning, I felt self-conscious about it. Like, I wouldn't even muscle test in front of my husband. It was like, he's just gonna think so much less of me, you know? As I got more and more comfortable, I was like, I don't care who sees me. I will do it in the grocery store now. It's like, and if they think I'm nuts, so be it. So 2 months later, I found out that I was in reverse. They call it being inverted. Your polarity is inverted. So then I learned from the same guy that you need to take your 3 fingers on both sides. So you're doing it at the same time, not painful, but very firmly. And you will do that for a minute. So I put my timer on. And then you retest your name again. If you're still going back, you do it again. It took me about 3 times for it to finally clear, and I went forward for my name. Most people who are inverted after the first one, they're done. They don't become inverted again. I did. I had to fix my my muscle, my inversion 2 or 3 times after that. Once I got past that, it never happened again. And it's that simple. You can learn. I've taught people over the phone. My little sister, I taught over the phone. The guy in Texas, I taught over the phone. It's very, very simple. A lot of people cannot get out of their own heads, though. So if you're overthinking, if you're too focused on, is this, too skeptical, you're not allowing your body to just act naturally. Why does it work? And who invented it? I don't know. I have no idea how long muscle testing has been in the world. I don't know who invented it, but that was one smart person. From what I understand, everything has an energy. You and I have an energy. Trees, leaves, plants, flowers, rocks, everything has an energy. So if you want to test after your name, take a bottle, have someone blindly, whether you're not even looking, and give you a bottle of something that's really bad for you, like Drano, and then muscle test yourself. And you will ask your body, is this good for me? Is this good for me? Or can I take this? Can I drink this? And your body knows that there's poison in there, and it'll tell you, no, don't do it.
Do you find that's very consistent? I guess I've been looking at the muscle testing. I've been trying, and there are some people who say, like, once you get the hang of it, like, it comes very easily. So it is a bit of a practice. Do you ever find that you get like the wrong answer? And then what do you do with that?
The only time I got wrong answers were when I didn't start higher because I was missing some stuff. I'll give you an example. My grandson, who had the GERD, the rice allergy, the milk allergy, when I first muscle tested him, I didn't know this. And he did test positive for everything. And then when he zeroed out, we took him off of everything. And within 2 or 3 weeks, his symptoms started showing up again. And I'm going, what happened? It wasn't until I found out later that you need to start at the right place so you can get the highest possible positive. I started on him again at 100, and he had zeroed out, mind you, and he was back at 30 some drops, 20 some drops for the different remedies. So we put him on them again. And when those zeroed out, then he was perfectly fine and nothing resurged. Now, so no wrong answers per se. What happens with my muscle testing every now and then is I have to do little, it doesn't seem to want to get going sometimes. So it's like slow to answer. And I have to figure out little tricks. Like sometimes my arm works as an antenna. Sometimes I've got to hold it out here for my body to actually start moving. Sometimes I press harder on the remedy, on the bottle, and then I get an answer. Other times I don't have to do that. I don't know what causes that. I don't know why some days I'm less sensitive to the muscle testing than other days. But I've never gotten a wrong answer. No. If you have to do it a lot and you have to develop a confidence in it that eventually you're like, yeah, that's a no-brainer. How do you test yourself? Find someone else, teach them how to muscle test. And then both of you muscle test the same person or yourself or whoever, and write down your answer separately. You don't say numbers out loud. And if you're both muscle testing properly, you come in within one or two drops or pellets or tablets, whatever it is that you're using, within each other. That's how you know this thing is real, because, you know, we're not sending mental messages. So how did we both come up with almost the same number? Sometimes the same, but usually almost the same within one or two drops. Yeah.
So then to test the remedy, to test a remedy for yourself, you're saying you hold it and then you say, do I need to take 100 drops? And then you're waiting for your body to move, and do you keep just going 99, 98, 97, 96?
Oh no, you'll never get done. You'll never get done that way. So what I do, I'll go, do I need 100? Do I need 90? Do I need 80? And I just I go down by tens. Let's say that I hit 30 and I got a no, but then I hit 20 and I got a yes. Now I have to make them meet. So if I got a yes on 20, then I'll say, do I need 25? If I get a yes, then I still have to go further. Do I need 28? And so what you're looking for is your last yes and your first no. I find that muscle testing is the single best tool I could ever have for whether it's homeopathy or any other medical discipline. It's like your body talks to you. It tells you, yes, I need that. No, I don't need that. I'm done with that. You know, it's awesome. Like I said, some people are not able to get out of their heads and they feel shy about it. You have to be bold. There are some people that I've never gotten to be able to muscle test. And if they're far away, I say, you have to find someone to teach near you that will come and muscle test.
If you're muscle testing for someone else, are you touching them, or are you getting them to do it themselves, or how does that work?
If I forgot to mention, when you're standing, your feet should be about shoulder width apart. So now that same pose, standing straight but relaxed, shoulder width apart on your feet, your arms just dangling. You take the remedy in your hand, in the bottle, and if you're going to test someone else, they can't be lower than you. You can't be slouching over. You have to maintain your straight position. So they have to be at a height anywhere on their skin. It can be their face, their arm, their neck, their chest, whatever. But you have to be able to stand in the position so that his body can tell you yes or no for whatever you're doing. So when I'm doing someone else, I will ask, does Joe need 5 pellets? Well, now I don't do that. Now I start from 100. And then I just do the same thing. And I make sure that the bottle is touching their skin. And I always try to touch their skin with my fingertips as well. But you want to be in such a position to them that you're allowing for your body to move. Okay, so whatever position in accordance to them, in relation to them, that you need to be, so that your arm will easily give one way or the other to go with what your body is doing. And so this is how you test babies. This is how I test. Well, my handicapped daughter, she has a chromosome deletion. You can get someone else to hold your baby for you, if, because they're not going to stand still. But what I do for her is she'll be on the floor and I pick up her blouse and I make contact with her ribs, her side, to the skin on my leg, lower leg. And then I'm holding the medicine. I'm not touching the medicine to her. I'm just touching the leg. But you say the other person's name. So you always ask, does Joe need, and my daughter is Angela also. So I say, does Angel need? And so one leg is touching her ribs and the other one is further away because it has to be shoulder width apart. So only one leg is actually touching her body. And that's how I test her every day. She never has to sit up. She doesn't have to do anything but lay there, which she's really good at. So,
that is helpful. And do you assume that the remedy is correct, or do you say, does she need this remedy? And then you go with the number of pellets.
I used to ask if they needed the remedy, but if you ask the question, I just go straight to the question, does she need this many? And if you get no all the way down, she doesn't need the remedy.
Right.
I feel safer doing that than asking, does she need the remedy? I don't know why. I think that's just my thing. I feel better just going down the gamut and saying, does she need 100, 80, 70, 60, 50, 20? Okay. And we'll work with that. So, yeah.
So the lady
I don't ask anymore.
Okay. The lady who had the knee issue, did you muscle test her, or did you just kind of give her the Banerji protocol as was?
No, I muscle tested her and I taught her to muscle test. So she does it all on her own.
Wow. That's awesome that people are so open to that. I mean,
well,
already you've got homeopathy. Now let me muscle test you. And they're like, oh my God, what's going on?
My daughter's mother-in-law, who has the diverticulitis that she never took me up on, when I went to help them heal from the dreaded illness, I said, you know what? I could come back every morning because we live like 4 minutes apart. I can come and test you. I said, but why don't I try to teach you how to muscle test? And she's a little dizzy. So I'm like, I don't know if it's going to work for her, but let's give it a try. Do you know that she is one of the quickest learners on muscle testing that I have ever seen? I'm going, wow, how did you do that? And so she was able to muscle test both herself and her husband and I didn't have to go back every day. I did go back every 3 or 4 days just to check on them and check her numbers. And she says, I just don't feel secure about it. I said, okay, you do the muscle testing and then I'll do it on you. You don't tell me. And we both got the same number. That's how good she is. We both got the exact same number. I think anybody can learn, but some people just can't get out of their heads, out of their own heads in order to muscle test properly. So, and for them, I just say, you got to find someone. If they're long distance, you got to find someone.
Wow, I'm really glad to get you in person to kind of add that illustrative color to everything that I see you say it all the time, and I'm like, oh, muscle testing, I tried it, but now I'm going to try harder. So I really appreciate that. A coaching session there. That's great.
Try little tricks. Everyone's got a little trick. Sometimes you need to do just, I always thought that you had to tip your head back and close your eyes. And a lot of times now, I'm not tipping or closing my eyes. Sometimes I'm even doing this a little down, not completely down, but a little down. And it works. So find your groove is what I would say. But it does work for everyone.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I mean, we're getting up to the kind of the 2-hour mark. I've seen folks had some questions in the chat, but I think we've got everything. Is there anything else? Like, what do you see? I guess people are coming to you now for, help, which is great. Again, have you ever had to go to like a second line on the Banerji, or do you feel like Banerji first line has really done you a great service?
I have not yet. For me and my family, I think for a couple of people that I've helped like long distance online, they have had to go on. But for the most part, there's a reason why they put that first line protocol in, because it is likely going to work for whoever's trying it. There was a guy, this was maybe 4 years ago, who saw me posting, I think it was in a different group, and he messaged me privately because it was a very private issue. And I'll never forget his name, because his name was Larkin, and I was just so fascinated by that name. And he says, I didn't, sorry for writing to you directly, but I didn't want to put this out there. He said he was suffering from benign prostatic hyperplasia. And he was getting up and going to the bathroom too many to count, every night. He was completely exhausted because he was getting no sleep. And I said, sure. And we got on the phone and I taught him how to muscle test. And this guy was eager to learn. I said, as soon as your remedies come in, message me and we'll go through, make sure you know how you're going to go about this. And he ordered them the same night, messaged me as soon as he got them. And then the guy went to town. And then I didn't hear from him. So about 2 weeks later, I said, Larkin, I said, how's it going? What's going on? He says, well, I think it's working. He says, I'm not getting up as often as I used to. I said, that is progress. Yes, good. I said, keep doing what you're doing. So 6 weeks comes by and I never hear back from him ever. I always had to contact him. So I contacted him and I said, Larkin, what's going on? He says, B, I don't get up at night anymore. That is a thing of the past. I said, awesome. I said, have you zeroed out? He says, no, I'm still muscle testing positive for the stuff. I said, keep going till you get to 0, then you can stop. And I never did hear back from him. Some people are just like that. Thank you, bye. I like to hear back because on some things, especially that one, he's the only one I know that has done that one. So when people get a protocol, I like for them to tell me what happened, whether it's good or bad, so that I can pass it on to others. And if it's good, hey, someone else comes with this issue. Well, I know it worked over here. Let's see if this works on you,
So that's actually a really useful example that you gave, because I have my dad, I think, on that same one or a similar one. And for me, I looked at the Banerji first line protocol, and it seems like, if it's the same one, it was more it's for the enlarged prostate. And so the first line protocol was like Meterinum and Cantharis, and those are more indicated for UTIs. And I was asking my dad, do you have, any of these issues? And otherwise, someone had offered a different protocol that actually seemed to fit his mentals better. And so I opted for that one, because I was like, I don't really think the Banerji, I went classical, right? I started with classical. And so then I've tried to apply that to the Banerjis, and I'm like, well, I don't know if that's a really good fit. And this one was from, I think, Fuad, who's also very good. So I kind of went with what he said. But for you, do you ask those questions to say, well, give me more information to see if that first line kind of fits the remedy, or do you just kind of like, nope, just go for it?
Most cases I don't. For that one, I didn't. Now I do what I'm told usually. So if it says try this one first, that's what we're going with. And most of the time, a very high percentage of the time, that is the one that works. So I usually just do that. And I tell them, if this isn't working out for you, let me know, and we'll work on the second one and then the third. Now, the exception to that is the eczema one, because the grandson that I told you about, he had the scaly sandpaper feel behind his the backs of his legs. And the first line was working beautifully. When I say first line, this was Joette Calabrese's first and second line. And that was working great. But then my daughter came one day and she says, Mom, what do you think about this? He's got these cracks in his toes, in the lines of his toes, deep cracks. They weren't bleeding yet, but she says, what in the world is that? I said, that means he needs petroleum. We need to switch over to the second line protocol. When we did that, we finished off with that, and he's never had an incident again. So for that, I went by what I know about petroleum and the cracked, dry cracks, sometimes bleeding cracks. But for the most part, I don't know enough to tell people, yeah, let's look at this, that, because I never did classical, right? So I just go, here's what we got. Let's try the first one. And luckily, most of the time it works.
Yeah. Do you also find, a lot of the first lines have like a couple remedies in them. You always find that everyone tests for at least some of all of them? Or is there ever like, oh, someone doesn't test for a particular?
What I have found is usually they do test for all the ones in the first. Every now and then they don't. And for those, I have to wonder if the muscle testing has gone awry. So what I say is, if you want to use it anyway. I would, just in case you're not muscle testing properly. If you choose not to, then you don't.
Awesome. Great. Oh, that's helpful. That's a good tip. Yeah, it's nice to, I was actually really, I didn't know that you didn't know classical or had the classical background. So I try to start my friends on Banerji protocols. I'm like, don't confuse yourself. Just start with Banerji, stick with that until it fails you, and then go look for other things. But it does seem like a lot of people really do have like good success kind of keeping that purist mindset. And it is so much quicker than, the classical route. So that's good.
And like I said, every once in a while with people like my husband who defy all protocols, I have had to figure out what to give him. And then, like I said, this third year, I needed help. I needed help because it was like, but the longer you do this and the longer you muscle test, you start figuring stuff out, and it's like, wait a minute, there's connections here. And you get to the answer a little faster. And when he went out into the cold and his eyes were swelling, I'm going, okay, he may be allergic to rice. He may have a dairy intolerance, but I'm telling you, he's allergic to the cold. And why is it that he gets this in the winter? It's only in the winter. So there was a cold aspect to all of this. And now I'm treating him for urticaria, for the allergies, for the intolerances, for everything, for the gut. So I'm next year, I'm hoping zero skin issues, because his take too long.
Cool. We have one question. It looks like Ivan is saying that his son is on calc carb 1M for his food allergies, and the homeopath said once a month, and he wants to know, can he try muscle testing to see how many times he needs this potency? The kid's 15 and he's trying to heal him for 4 years.
The Banerji, one of the Banerji protocols for allergies, for elevating the immune system, is calc carb 1M. But they prescribe it once a week. So he can feel free to do once a week. Now, I would muscle test if I were him. There are certain people where, like local, some of my best friends, they've been doing something and they go, this is working very slowly. Can we supersize this? I said, well, I would normally not say this to other people, but because you know how to muscle test, I would say muscle test every dose that you want to give faster. So for calc carb, I would say if you want to try giving it to him once a day, muscle test him. Be confident in your muscle testing though. If you're not confident, I wouldn't try that. You have to be in tune with your body. Practice does make perfect. So my philosophy for myself, and it has nothing to do with the Banerji protocols or anything else, is I listen to my body. And if my body says yes, I do it. If it says no, I don't. It's that simple for me. But I've been doing muscle testing for 11 years, 12 years. So
how do you
I
test
would say,
the frequency? So you start with the remedy that you have, and then you say, okay, what? Well, and actually, so assuming you've chosen the potencies that the Banerjis already have, and then with that, so starting that as a baseline, like you're not questioning that, and then you hold it, you get the number of pellets or drops, and then to test frequency, how do you ask that, or do you just say, before you give it, do you say, do I need this now?
I just ask if they need it. The body knows that you're asking, what do you need right now, right? So for frequency, I've never tried asking, do I need this 3 times a day, 5 times a day, every hour, what? I've never tried to ask that. What I do is, so for example, my grandchildren, when they come all boogie nosed and everything to my house, and I have to start treating them, I go through, do they need Hepar sulf? Do they need sanguinaria? Do they need sodium sulfate? And I line up all the possibilities, right? And then I just start muscle testing. I get the number for each one. If some of them don't have numbers, that's fine. I take those out. So in another 30 minutes, I'll do the whole thing again and see what they are or are not muscle testing for. Some may be 0. So I give the ones that give numbers, and the others I skip. Half an hour later. So that's how I figure out. I test again, and if it's ready, it'll tell you. If it's not, it says no. That's the only way I know.
Are you testing the number of pellets each time? So you say, does he need 190? Okay.
I don't start with 100 every time. Once I've already done that once, I start from the number they last used. Okay, because it's either going to be the same or a little less. So I don't have to go through the whole 100. So if I ended up at 23, half an hour later, I'll start at 23. And in all likelihood, it's going to be a few less than that. So
23 pellets, you count that out? That's a lot of work.
Yes. I get a little glass bowl and I shake them around until they all line up just so. And sometimes it takes a little while. I like the drops a lot better, and I'm using drops a lot more often now, because that you don't have to get, it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Sometimes I forget and I keep going. Then I'm like, start over. But yeah, so
on the drop one, I will ask you this: do you buy it as drops, or would you put the pellet in a water and make a water remedy and then say how much of this do they need, or do you just go straight from the liquid?
When we first started, all I was using was pellets because that's all I knew. As time has progressed, I learned again from the guy in Canada that I buy cell salts from. He taught us how to make more remedy from, I buy now tiny little liquid remedies. You pay $12, $13 for it. And then you take that, and I make a 30 ml bottle out of that with 6 drops. I don't treat from that little bottle. I make a bigger bottle, a 4-ounce bottle, and I use 24 drops from the first bottle. And they actually do measure out the same. Muscle test wise. So, and then you go and I thump it 100 times to before it's ready. When that runs out, it has to completely run out. You can't, there's very limited spaces in there. Very little give room. Then I make sure it's completely empty. I put in 120 mLs again, and then I take 24 more drops from the first bottle that I made, And so it's going to take a while for that first bottle to dissipate. So now I'm as often as I can, I'm using the liquids now because it's way cheaper and I give so much stuff away. It's like I'm always giving stuff away. I may as well give it away for less cost to me. Now, if someone out there knows a really good way to make a lot more out of pellets, message me and teach me how, because I would love. The guy in Canada, this is what he said. You can only make more homeopathic remedies from potencies of 12 X or C on up. So if you got a 3C, you can't do it. If if you got a 6C, well, I finally decided to test that theory, and I took Arsenicum album 3C and I made a 30 ml, and I muscle tested the original, the bottle that I bought, against the little first bottle that I made, and I needed the exact same number. I'm going, oh, okay. I'm going to start making the 3Cs, the 6Cs. I'm going to start making them all now. So we'll see.
That's awesome. Who's the guy in Canada? What's his name? Or his
Tim Goyetch. Goyetche. Very, very not. He's a homeopath, a naturopath. He's got several titles. And I get my cell salts from him. But ever since I discovered homeopathy, I've needed less and less and less of those, because those are much more expensive. Homeopathy is like I can make all day long. So, yeah.
That's awesome. Can you spell that last name again?
Goyetche. And if you look him up in YouTube, he's got videos on there. That's how I found him the first time.
Yeah, I think you mentioned him before. I think I've seen him. So yeah, there you go. Sorry, someone was asking. So yeah, perfect. Great. Okay, great. Well, we've got about 6 more minutes. Is there any last words of wisdom you want to share? Or you did make a couple of requests. So, there's the type 1 diabetes and there were some other things. So we'll make sure we'll keep ears out for that. And then propagating with pellets, more of those. Anything else that you have that you want to share with the group?
Listen to your body. That's all I can say. Be very in tune with your body, because our bodies are talking to us all the time. When you have a little pain here, a little pain there. I had a girlfriend just the other day. Her daughter walks up to her and she says, it hurts here and it hurts here. And it's like kind of a burning pain. And she picked up her blouse and she was red. And I said, oh my gosh. I said, she's got allergies. And she says, it's just a little eczema. I said, there's no, her body is screaming for you to help her. That is not normal. It isn't normal. Don't take the things that are happening to you. For example, aging. Okay. I will be 65 in July. And I have no major medical issues. I have not been on any even over-the-counter drugs in 20 plus years, 21 maybe. I eat organically. I try not to, but sometimes we do. There are cheat days. But I try to eat very healthy and exercise. Take good care of your body, because if you do, your body will take care of you. At my age, there's lots of people that every joint hurts. They're on several different meds already. This is how they kill us, by the way. I will die med-free, as in allopathic meds. I have no use for them. Some people say, well, there are times when, no, in 21 years, I have not encountered one situation where, and I have horrible kidney infections that I do deal with it used to be every 10 years, then it went every 5. And then I had one last year and the year before, and they're getting worse. So I said, okay, you know what? It's time to cure this once and for all. But even with those, my kidney infections are so bad that I have vomiting. I have, after a while, my left leg starts dragging behind. Then I can only crawl. And then I got to sit somewhere. So I got to take care of myself before all, and it happens very quickly. Most people with the severity of the pain that I am in would already be on their way to the hospital. And yes, it still scares me, even though I know I've treated them naturally. It's very scary to be in that severe pain. In 21 years, even with things like that, I have never said, okay, take me to the hospital and drug me up. The one exception was my husband when that skin condition last year, and then the steroid didn't even work. So I'm like, ugh, why did you do that? You know, no, I don't.
Do you take,
I don't.
take kidney infection?
I'm sorry, say again.
Do you take the Banerji protocol for your kidney infection, or have you been managing that with homeopathy or other things?
I'm doing some Banerji right now, and then there is a supplement. It's called Cytozyme KD. That is the most amazing supplement. Literally, when I was sick this last time, I had a kidney infection, cystitis, and a UTI. I was in horrible, horrible shape. And usually I was only getting infections, and I was managing them. One year was 5.5 hours. The following time was 2.5 hours. And then the whammy hit me, and I wasn't bringing it under control. I was terrified. And I happened to have a bottle of Cytozyme KD because this guy, a naturopath on YouTube, Dr. Tent, had told a story about how he had a patient on dialysis, and he started him on Cytozyme KD. And by the 8th day, the guy was taken off of dialysis. This is how miraculous this stuff is. Well, when this hit me this last year, I muscle tested, and I was barely able to muscle test. I was in such pain, but I tested for 6 of them. And the dose is to take 1 or 2 a day. This was 6 in one dose. I said, I will obey my body. I took the 6, and literally in under 20 minutes, pain gone. And then I kept muscle testing for several days. That day, I muscle tested several more times for 4 and 5 tablets per dose. On the worst day, I took 32 of those tablets, all with muscle testing. But I got over the hump really fast after that. So, so my main love is homeopathy, but there are a couple of things like Cytozyme KD, Colostrum LD by Sovereign Laboratories is an amazing one too. It's kind of like a natural antibiotic. But then I discovered Hepar sulf. So I use less of the colostrum because it's very pricey. The good one is very pricey. But yeah.
Yeah, what was the name of it? It's Cytovine, Cytovine?
Cyto, CYTO, Zyme, ZYME. So Cytozyme dash KD.
And that's a supplement.
That is a supplement, and it is by Biotics Research. That is the bomb for anyone having urinary, kidney, bladder stuff. It is the ultimate bomb. I love it.
And it was Dr. Tent was the doctor that you found?
Tent as in I'm going camping and I'm going to set up a tent.
Great. Ooh. Now I
And
do.
that
I'm sorry,
guy,
one more.
that guy
Go
is
ahead.
my Cairo, and he is world renowned, by the way. Look up his videos.
Okay, great. And then the colostrum. What was the colostrum called?
Colostrum-LD.
Okay.
And that
And
is
that's
by Sovereign Laboratories.
Sovereign. Great. Have you ever had a protocol or remedy not work?
Yes, with my husband.
Mm.
But here's Joette Calabrese's answer to that. It's not that the remedy didn't work. It's that you didn't have the right remedy. Because, and this is true, because when I found the right remedies for him, we did get him cured. So
Great.
as long as you have the right remedies, homeopathy will always work. But you got to find the right remedies.
What a good confidence booster. I love it. Great. Well, I was going to say 65, you look fantastic. What are your skin remedies? Do you do anything for your skin? Because you look amazing.
Well, the guy in Canada sells a skin formula, which I buy every month. He also has, he calls it the geriatric formula, but it's basically for all organs, right? It was a joke that he ended up calling it the geriatric formula. Well, then he made another one called the dementia formula, which is basically the geriatric formula on steroids. So I take both of those too. I don't have a facial routine. I'm too busy to do that. I do try to eat well. And recently I started, someone, I think it was on our group, was talking about biotin and how she took 12, 20, I forget. She took a whole slew. And I'm like, she's probably wasting some money there. So I ordered some biotin and I muscle tested, and I muscle tested for 12 of them that were 500 milligram. And then when I reordered, I purchased I purchased the 500 milligrams. So the others must have been 250. So now I tested the 500 milligram biotin, and it was 6 for a few weeks. And then recently it changed to 5 of them. So it's improving. I do have a little bit of, especially on this side, bags in the eyes that I am still trying to conquer. If anyone has a secret, I would pay to get rid of this. This one's okay. This one's not so much. So anyone with an excellent protocol for bags under the eyes, please help me.
I feel like vanity is going to be a good way to get a lot of people into homeopathy. Like if we can do
Yes.
that, it will sell itself. Actually, I know that for Botox, I know the doctors give out arnica after Botox. And I was like, this should be everyone's gateway. It's like, you're taking arnica, you should believe in homeopathy, it works. So
that's right. They do. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Well, we've taken up so much of your time. We really appreciate it. I know, if you have any more stories, we can always do a round 2. Sorry about the technical difficulties earlier. But this has been amazing. I know I have a confidence boost now. I'm going to go try the muscle testing again. I love that idea of getting a friend to do it too. Like, I think that'll be really exciting. So awesome.
Focus on your words. Focus on your words, not on what you don't even care about what your body's doing. Your body will take care of itself. Focus on your words.
Sounds good. Awesome. And then for everyone else, I have this recorded in Zoom. Hopefully it's got everything. So I will try to make it available to everybody. I will turn it into at least an audio podcast and then maybe pull some things out for the YouTube, like just the little snippets. I mean, you gave me so many great stories. I'm excited. Like, it's going to be awesome. Everyone is saying thank you over in the chat. So again, B, we really appreciate you your activity in the group has really, launched this thing. And just as kind of a side note, the Banerji clinic did reach out to me recently. Aisha Banerji is Prateep's daughter. And so she is still a trustee there. And she just reached out to me this week to say that they're interested in kind of being involved in the group a little bit more. And she agreed to do a live as well. So hopefully, soon enough, we'll be able to get her on and hear how things are going over at the clinic. So I'm really excited about that.
Oh, that's awesome. That's amazing. I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome. Well, thank you.
I was hoping that the family line had not died.
I know. I was like, who's here? Who's here? So it sounds like there are there. So awesome. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for logging in and giving us your time. And we'll see you in the group.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.